Okay. Well, second. Make sure we are working. Hello, hi to everyone who's joining us. I'm just having a little technical issue, just working it out here. No, we're good. Okay. Hi to everyone who will be joining us on Facebook. If you're there, hello already. And hi to everyone who's popping on right now. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It is, of course, good morning for me here in Edmonton. And it's good afternoon for Mr. Neil Wilson, who is our guest today. So before we get going and before I officially introduce you to our guest, I just want to say again, welcome to Elevate Aviation's Airtime. It's a webinar series where we explore people inside aviation, and we get to learn a little bit about them and from them, and hope that this makes your life a little bit better somehow in some way. Before I introduce Neil, I want to talk about something that's coming up for us. On August 22nd, Elevate Aviation is hosting a Transport Canada approved pilot recurrent training day. So if you're a pilot and you want to get your recurrency training, you can join us. You can go to elevateaviation.ca and you can join up for that. It's free. Like I said, it's Transport Canada approved, and it's going to be a full day. We're talking about things like ADSB, the Red Deer Airspace, the new airspace that's coming out, for flight, and there'll be some other subjects throughout the day, full day activities. So that'll be a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to let you know about is that we are taking our Elevate Aviation Learning Center online. So it won't just be available for the people who come out to join us for the week. It'll be available to really anyone who wants to know more about aviation careers. So you'll have an opportunity to share aviation careers with people who don't know about it. If you are not on our newsletter, you can again go to elevateaviation.ca, sign up for our newsletter, and it will keep you posted on all of this, including the guest that we have in our webinar. So today's guest, I am just thrilled. I'm so excited. So sit back, grab a coffee or tea, relax, and you get to listen to Neil Wilson, who's the president and CEO of NAV Canada. He became the president and CEO on January 1st in 2016, and Mr. Wilson is a lawyer by trade. And so I'm kind of curious how you go from lawyer to CEO of NAV Canada. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But when Neil became the president of NAV Canada, he brought a wave of change into NAV Canada. You know, the previous CEO, I don't even recall ever meeting him. And I think it was within months. It seems like it was within months of Neil becoming the president. I'd seen him twice in our building and had met him briefly. So that was a big change just right there. And then he made the employees an important part of NAV Canada and putting the employees first. So that was a big change. Another big thing that I love is that for all of you who know me, my mission is to try to help women find economic security in their careers, and we use aviation as our platform to do that because we excuse me, we love aviation. And it was the support of this man, our guest today, who has made that possible for me in the last 2 years to be able to travel around the world, especially our country, and speak on aviation. And he's, you know, puts his approval on our cross-country tours when NAV Canada opens their doors to thousands of young women that we bring in to talk about aviation. So it was really his support that's allowed that to happen. So I love that as well. So right now, here he is, Mr. Neil Wilson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kendra. I can't live up to that. I can't live up to that introduction, but thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Well, I am so glad that you made time for us. And the first question I want to jump into is what I talked about just a moment ago is really, you are a lawyer.
Yes.
So first of all, did you always want to be a lawyer? Like, how did you get into that? Did you grow up saying, Mom, Dad, I want to be a lawyer from an early age?
No, not at all. I guess I didn't even think of law as as a career until I was in law school. I was interested in law and the study of law when I was doing my undergraduate work in political science and economics and philosophy, and I was interested in the law and the concept of law. But it was really when I went to law school and started to see all of the different areas that I could experience and think about and begin to think about practicing in, that I became interested in becoming a lawyer. And then when I left law school and joined the law firm, I did join here in Ottawa a long time ago now. But when I joined them and was exposed to even more areas of the law, that I really became fascinated with being a practitioner, with being a lawyer. Right off the bat, my practice originally was practicing in the area of defamation law, so representing media outlets across the country, and mainly here in Ottawa, but really across the country. And until I joined that firm and saw that, I didn't even know that kind of work existed. And so I became more and more interested in being a lawyer and developing as a lawyer as the time went on.
You know, that's interesting, because that's, you know, what we're trying to do with aviation is just expose more people to the career so that they know that they're out there.
Exactly.
Because that's the number one thing people say when we, like, especially on our cross country tours, you know, like I said, thousands of young women, the number one question that they ask us at the end of the day is, why haven't we heard of these careers? So it's getting
Yes.
that exposure is so important.
And
So
as you know, in specific, and in particular at NAV Canada, the awareness of what we do at NAV Canada across the country is very, very low. And that's been something that we've really been focusing on, is just expose people. And you have done a great job at that, you know, with the summer camps that we have, and with Elevate, just been tremendous at exposing a lot of young people to what they can do here at NAV Canada or elsewhere in aviation. Yeah.
well, the people in aviation and on our team, they are so passionate. Like, it seems like people who get into aviation are also passionate about aviation, which brings me to my next question, which is, you didn't have a love for aviation, I'm assuming, growing up, and yet now you're the president and CEO in the aviation industry.
Yes.
What did that journey look like?
You know, it's really been, I would say, the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, that I've started to develop this love for aviation. And in particular, I think really since I took on the role I'm in now as CEO, which has given me the opportunity to travel so much across the country and see what it is that we at NAV Canada do, how we interact with the aviation community, and really experience what aviation in Canada, but also internationally, is all about. One of my absolute favorite parts of this job is the opportunity to visit our locations, our operational locations. You'd think that they would all be the same, but each and every single one of them is different. I love going and seeing how the operation is working, whether it be where you are at, you know, Edmonton ACC or Norman Wells or anywhere else in the country. I have really, as you say, developed a great love for aviation because of that and through that. Yeah.
So I heard actually that you were one of the ladies, you were in the IFSS Gander area one time, and apparently you had the headset on.
Yeah.
And that went around a little bit that you did that. So that was fun that you did that for them.
And I gained a huge amount of appreciation for what those folks do and their ability to actually understand what pilots are saying on those frequencies, which are not the easiest things to determine. Yeah.
No, yeah, I went out to visit, and it's just all scratchy, and I'm like, how do you listen to this? But they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the awareness of aviation and all the different careers inside NAV Canada, a lot of people think it's just air traffic control, those who know what air traffic control is, but of course there's the FSS and the IFSS and the ATOS and the tech and the engineering, and like there's so many careers inside NAV Canada that people don't know about, and all wonderful careers inside NAV Canada. So we shall continue to
Yes.
to promote that for people. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about when NAV Canada privatized from the government? You were part of that.
Yes.
So what did that look like? I came in actually after that, so I was one of the ones that I wasn't part of the old air traffic control. But what was that like? That was really your first experience. with NAV?
Yeah. So this is back in the the mid '90s, and at that time in my law practice, I had a number of aviation clients, some airlines, but one in particular was the Air Transport Association of Canada, ATAC, and ATAC was really taking the lead from the air carrier perspective on commercializing, privatizing the air navigation system in Canada, and it was a unique consensus reached at that time amongst all the stakeholders, not just the airlines, but also all of the employees represented by their unions, by the government, by general aviation, the business aviation folks, all of those people, that the system wasn't being particularly well run or delivering the kind of value that the stakeholders all wanted and expected. And so they reached this consensus that it could be done differently through a different kind of organization. So as I said, I was representing ATAC, and ATAC was a real driving force behind the commercialization. And so they came to me as their outside lawyer to start working on putting together the corporate model and the governance model, and then to start negotiating with the government to buy the system from the government. So I spent probably a year and a half of my life working through that deal to privatize and to bring the system out from government into a private corporation. It was a great time.
And so did you sort of witness the whole transition of air traffic controllers, and maybe how to say this, maybe the attitude towards NAV Canada from that transition of when it was government till today? There was quite a bit of transition there.
There's been
and
huge,
not all that
absolutely.
great.
No, and there have been ups and downs, absolutely. Throughout, so since NAV Canada was brought into being, and then when it took on responsibility on November the 1st, 1996, I've been, either working for the company or inside the company, or I've been advising the company as the outside lawyer. So I've seen the state of relations between the company and all the employees, the state of relations between the company and customers, right across, throughout the entire history of the organization. And I think if there's one thing that, if we went back and tried to do it again, and we would try and do a much better job with, the relations that we've had with the employees through time. Those in particular, those initial years were tough. They were tough. There was a lot of expectations on the part of the employees when they came over into the private sector, and a lot of those expectations weren't met by the company. And so that created a difficult situation for a number of years. Yeah.
Do you think that the FAA will ever go the same route?
I have great doubts. So I've gone through at least 2 sets of consultations, if I can put it that way, with the Americans. On 2 occasions, there have been attempts to get the NAV Canada model going down in the States to privatize the FAA. When that has happened, legislation's been introduced into Congress, and that has triggered a bunch of American politicians coming up to meet with us. So on a couple of occasions, the Secretary of Transportation in the US has come up with leading people in the FAA, with congressmen, so both representatives and senators. And we've talked with them, and as I say, the legislation's been put into Congress, but it hasn't advanced, it hasn't become law. I think unlike what we have here in Canada, they don't have down there, which is that, as I say, that unique consensus amongst all the stakeholders that this is a better way to do things. I know that the unions down in the US, certainly NATCA, are strong proponents of commercialization. A number of interests down there are as well, but there are a number of factions or participants in the process who don't see the benefits of it and prefer the existing model. So they've tried it. There's a lot of people interested, but I don't know that they'll ever get it across the line.
You think they look at NAV Canada and
yeah.
And
Yep.
anyway,
That's what we say.
Yeah. I just want to say hi to Julia. Julia, she's watching and she's 16 years old. So
Hi,
future
Julia.
NAV Canada, maybe.
Yes,
And she says that she's so grateful and impressed with NAV Canada. And she even got a couple of wonderful tours of different operational facilities. So who knows? Julia might be a NAV Canada employee one day,
absolutely.
maybe.
Absolutely.
So when it came time that NAV Canada was looking for a new CEO,
Yep.
can you just like, I'm really curious, what makes someone go, I could be the CEO of that company. I could lead that company. Like there's some thought behind that.
There's a
Um,
lot of thought. Yeah, there's a
what
lot of
can
thought behind it.
what does that look like?
So, well, I mean, it's a big decision. It's a big D decision in your life. So, in the years before January the 1st, 2016, um, my predecessor, John Crichton, was looking at retiring. And so as part of, his job, it was to help develop potential successors. And so I was given some opportunities for development. And so I was the in-house counsel here at NAV Canada, but I was also given responsibility for human resources and labor relations and for stakeholder relations and a number of things as development opportunities. And so went through that and got a broader management experience than I had when I was the lawyer and running the corporate services group only. And then it got closer, and so they started to talk to me about the job. And to be honest, the first couple of times they talked to me, having gone through that development process, seeing where the company was at that stage of its history, thinking about what I could do and not do, I said no to them the first couple of times because I didn't think that what I had was really necessarily what the company needed. I'd been with the company for a long time. So I had been through some of those difficult periods. I had seen a number of things, and I thought that perhaps I was too stuck in the past, if you will. But I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought, there are a number of things about NAV Canada that were great, that are great. There were real strengths, and were strengths that we could build upon. But one of the areas that I thought was not as strong as it should be and needed to be was having an equal focus on all stakeholders, on providing value to all stakeholders, and in particular, elevating all of our employees to the same level as the customers. So we've always done a great job for the customers in this company. We should, and I thought we needed to do an equally great job for all of the employees. And so I thought that was something that I could bring to the table and that I could get behind and lead. So that was really what sparked my decision to say, yeah, this is, I do want to do this, and I'm going to do this.
I think you made that clear too, especially early on. I remember when you went around and you were visiting all the sites and you spoke about making the employees important.
Yeah.
And that was new language, I think, from the controllers, maybe the employees. I think that was new language,
Yeah.
which was really welcome. So that was
Glad.
really good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm just curious. So then we'll get off. We have a question here I want to get to. But when you decide to go forward to be the CEO, what does that look? So the board of NAV Canada, just so people know,
Yep.
who might not know, the board of NAV Canada picks the CEO. Is it a large process? Is it a scary process? If someone's looking to ever become a CEO, I mean, there's even people inside NAV Canada that I'm sure one day wants to reach that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a pretty scary level?
It's it's a little intimidating. It's brings a little bit of anxiety, brings a little bit of nervousness, but all good anxiety and all good nervousness. If you don't want to do it, you shouldn't do it. So and you should expect that it's going to challenge you. And challenges obviously are exciting, but they can create a little bit of what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, so there's a bit of a process in terms of interviews, but because I'd been with the company so long, the board knew me, knew who I was, what I was, So we had a bit of a process really about saying, this is what I think needs to happen here, and this is what I want to do. And so they saw that, and it was on the basis of that they made the decision of, yes, this is the direction we want to go, and this is the person we want to lead the company in that direction.
Okay, someone's asking, I suspect that being the CEO of a huge company takes up a lot of your time. How do you manage that? And do you have any free time for hobbies? You're a runner, so I know
I'm a
you
runner,
must fit
yeah.
that in there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you fit in time?
You make sure you do it. I think one of the most important things for any leader is that you have balance in your life, balance in how you approach everything, but balance in your life. And so if you don't make the time to take care of yourself, your physical health, your mental health, you're not going to do very well in the job. You could spend 16-hour days every day and fail completely, frankly, if you don't have that kind of balance. So yeah, no, I make sure I spend time and make time for my family, make sure I make time for myself. And as you say, I do a lot of running. So I run 4 or 5 days a week, probably a little less with the events of the last few months. It's been a little tough to get out and do things because we've been very busy, and then this summer has been really hot here in Ottawa, so it's not been that pleasant to get out and run, but as many times a week as I can. Yeah.
Okay, someone has a question here for you. What exactly is a great job for a NAV Canada customer? When I think of NAV Canada, I think of controlling airplanes. Does NAV Canada do more than that?
Oh boy, yes, yes. Do we ever? So we have air traffic controllers, as this person knows and sees. We have flight service specialists who provide advisory service. They provide flight information. We have the ATOS folks who do the flight planning and flight information as well. But those are the sort of, really directly related to managing the airspace. But if you move beyond that, we have the people who plan all the airspace, who come up with all the standards and the procedures for how it's going to happen. We then have an enormous group of, and a fantastic group of engineers and techs who design and build and deploy and implement and maintain all of the systems. And we're very much a high-tech company required to facilitate all of the aviation everywhere in Canadian airspace. We have all of the traditional corporate functions that you'd have at a large organization. So we have our IM group, our IT group that does all the business systems. We have our lawyers and our finance people and our HR people and our labor people and our warehouse. So we've got our contracting group. We've got lots and lots of those kinds of jobs as well. So we do an awful lot of things, and we run a training and conference center down in Cornwall that's got a lot of existing employees know about it, but we run a place that has 600 rooms for people to come in for conferences and training, and so we've got a host of businesses.
Yeah. NAV Canada is a lot. Well, most people just don't know what NAV Canada is. Period.
No.
But
no,
yeah.
We're pretty quiet behind the scenes. So, Yeah.
Yes. Okay, here's another question. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jeff, Cost Floor Instructor in Ontario, First Nations Technical Institute, FNTI. They have quite a high number of female pilots from the first year to the third year. How can I get them more information on NAV Canada employment opportunities? Thanks again, Neil and Elevate.
So go to our website, go to www.navcanada.ca, and you'll find links to all of our employment related websites as well in terms of the job offerings that we have and the opportunities that we have. And you will find our materials about leave ordinary behind, because that's, as a company, what we think we offer. We offer an opportunity to people to do something that they won't do in any other organization, that's completely different from any other organization in this country, and will be really an extraordinary career for people who want to come and work here.
I can vouch for that. Carolyn, good morning, Carolyn. Are there any books or courses that you recommend for leadership skills?
Oh boy, there are. I think I don't have any that I recommend. And any specific ones. That doesn't mean don't avail yourself of all the ones that are out there. I think that um, when I think about the books that I've read on leadership, I will get one or two nuggets from just about every book that I read, and it's not, a whole approach that's a nugget that I take. It's one or two things that the author talks about or reveals or speaks about. And I say that because I firmly believe that to be an effective leader, you've got to be your own person. You've got to lead based on your own skills, your own abilities, your own instincts. I don't know that you can read a book and say, okay, I'm going to start with chapter 1 and end in chapter 24, and then I know how to be a leader. I think you take it all in, you think about how it relates to your sensibilities, your intuition, your values, and some you'll reject, some you'll incorporate, and just take in as much as you can that way.
Okay, I do want to get back into the leadership questions a little bit, but first I want to talk about the current environment. So here's a question. This is the question. With the aviation industry being hit the hardest by COVID, do you have any predictions on when air traffic control will begin to pick up again? And do you think it will ever get back to what it was? Simple question. There you go.
Simple question. Yeah. Well, not soon enough. Not soon enough. We'd all like to have it start coming back. Obviously, it's been significantly impacted. The large passenger carriers, their traffic is off, obviously, by an enormous amount, really, really significantly. Our traffic, because we manage all kinds of traffic, not just passenger traffic, but also cargo and medevacs and that sort of thing, is not off as much as the commercial passenger carriers is off, but it's still off upwards right now of about 70% from where it was in January, February. It's come back a little bit. It was off, I guess, about 80%. So we're starting to see it come back a little bit, but it's a long way off yet. We think it'll come back to about 80% of where it was in January, February by this time next year, roughly, give or take a little bit. It's coming back slowly. People are nervous about flying. They're not comfortable about flying. Our situation here in Canada is significantly impacted by what's going on south of the border and the situation in the U.S. when it comes to the spread of COVID and much higher rates of infection down there. That has kept the U.S.-Canada border closed effectively, or to a large extent, but also has greatly impacted, obviously, the flights between the U.S. and Europe, which is a significant part of what we do. Because if you fly between those two places, you're going to, just the way the Earth curves, you're going to fly through Canadian airspace. So until the U.S. gets their situation in a better place, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. A tough road to hoe. Yeah.
Yeah. So Caleb, hi Caleb. Caleb's asking this. I Googled privatization of the FAA in the United States and found an argument that there are more delays in the countries that have implemented privatization. I like hearing you, Neil, but feel skeptical being a U.S. citizen of potential for union busting, which is left over from the Ronald Reagan firing air traffic controllers. Our current president tends to fire people who disagree with him. I Googled NAV Canada too, and am impressed. Are you also pulled politically in Canada? And if so, how do you navigate it?
So a couple of things. I think if you look at our record on delays and restrictions, we have one of the best record in terms of servicing our customers of any air navigation service provider in the world. In other words, we have some of the fewest delays and restrictions anywhere in the world. In terms of the politics, one of the reasons for commercialization, one of the real driving reasons for it, was to separate the regulator from the operator. So with the FAA, or the way it used to be here in Canada before privatization, the same person who was regulating the system was operating the system. And so the political became, or was in Canada, very important. in what happened. And so in terms of whether a facility was opened or closed and where and how and those sorts of things, politics became very, very important, as it is in the US still. With the separation of regulator from operator, you remove that inherent conflict of interest. And so we have very, very little political influence, if I can put it that way, on what we do, how we do it, where we do it, and when we do it. Politicians will phone us. They'll try and influence. Obviously, that's their job, to promote their communities, their jurisdictions, their provinces, whatever. But you know, one of the favorite things for a minister of transport to say is, if he or she hears something or is trying to be influenced on something around air traffic management, to say, that's not our role. That's NAV Canada. They're a private corporation. Go talk to them. So the extent of political influence is almost non-existent with us. Interesting, in the US, in the discussions about privatizing the FAA, that's one of the reasons why those who are opposed to privatization want to keep it the way it is, because they like to have the influence and the ability to influence where the jobs will be, how they'll be performed, and how they'll be done. So no, we're remarkably free of those kinds of issues here in Canada.
Well, and I think even like the technology that comes in through NAV Canada, am I wrong to say that it gets pushed much quicker inside
Yes.
NAV Canada than it may in the States? I was in Spain at that World ATM, and I was just walking around, and I was at the American booth, the FAA, and they were showing everyone they're all showing off their technology. And they said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Canada, NAV Canada." And they're like, "Oh, you don't need to see this. Like, you're already past this." So I thought, you know, NAV Canada really is a world leader, and being private probably helps with that, I'm thinking.
Absolutely, absolutely it did. One of the first things that we did as a company when we were privatized and took on responsibility for the system was to invest in our engineering group, our systems engineers, and give them the job not to manage outside contractors and purchasing systems, but to build the systems themselves, write the code themselves, put these systems together. And so we have developed over the years a remarkably talented group of engineers who are world leaders when it comes to designing and building air traffic management systems. And you know, Kendra, you'll recall, because you were there at World ATM in Madrid, we have a booth. We're there with a booth because we sell our systems. We sell our systems around the world. And so our tower system is in, it's in Hong Kong, it's in Dubai, it's in Copenhagen, it's in every single tower in the UK, Heathrow, every tower throughout the UK, and lots of other places. So the same tower system, or the same system we use to manage traffic in a tower here in Canada or a flight service station here in Canada, is exactly the same system you're going to see in Heathrow Tower, one of the busiest airports in the world.
And for people watching, you know, when we talk about the careers inside NAV Canada, there's another career. You get to travel. You get to travel, and we have people who sell this stuff, right? There's
Yes,
employees who actually travel around and sell.
that's right.
So here's a question regarding the connection between this company and working with military organizations in the aviation field. Can you discuss, and working with military organizations in the aviation field, can you discuss this, please, the focus areas in aviation?
Well, our relationship with national defense in Canada is very close. DND, the Department of National Defense, has its own air traffic controllers. They have military controllers for military at air bases and where they have control towers. But they don't tend to do a lot of en route air traffic control. So we manage their aircraft when they are outside of designated military airspace and en route between the facilities. We coordinate very, very closely. We have people from the Air Force resident here in our head office in Ottawa at 77 Metcalfe on a permanent basis as liaisons for operational reasons, for policy reasons. So we coordinate all the time, not only obviously with the Canadian military, but with NORAD generally, and facilitating all of the work that they need to do.
Another question here. Do you, and I don't know, anyway, thank you. Can NAV Canada recruit skilled workers from other countries? And we actually get a lot of people at Elevate, controllers from other countries that are trying to come over, and
Yep.
it's
Yeah, we we've the past, I guess going back about 6 years, 7 years, we're short on a number of job sets, controllers in particular, I guess. And so we put a lot of money into training, because we want to train here in Canada and train new people, young people, to become controllers and flight service specialists and the other jobs we have. But we also look overseas. We don't do an awful lot of recruiting. ANSP's air traffic management, it's a small world. It's a small community worldwide. So we don't go poaching people from our friends elsewhere. But there are people who want to move to Canada, who are qualified in their home country. They have to come, when they come here, they have to qualify here. And so we have a number of people who have done that, absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few people that recently have been reaching out to us. So
Yes.
I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on down in the States that they want to come work up here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So some people, here's another question for you from one of the people watching. Some people say that the future of air traffic control will be automated one day, no need for controllers. Is that something that you see happening?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and maybe it's my age. I just don't see it. Not in my lifetime. It doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't think that the human in the loop will ever disappear. I think that the nature of the job may change from really active control and intervention to more of a monitoring role and intervention sort of as required. And I think that's the way the job will go. I think that there will be obviously more and more and more degrees of automation that will facilitate that monitoring and facilitate the resolution of conflicts between aircraft. But no, I don't think that we're ever going to see the human completely out of the loop. There's jobs for everybody forever.
So what about drones? Like with the future of drones, and last week we had a panel
Yeah.
of on drones, and they're talking about highways in the skies for
Yeah.
drones. And I was asking them, do you anticipate that air traffic control will control these highways in the skies, these drones, or not? And that answer, no one can really answer that yet. What do you think?
I think that, I mean, it's a great question, and it's something that we are spending a fair bit of time thinking about and working on. And I don't know that anyone has got it entirely figured out yet. But yeah, there's going to have to be coordination, just as there's coordination between aircraft that have, pilots in the cockpit. You've got to, you're going to have coordination between drones and piloted aircraft. And it's best to have that coordination in one central place by one body. Rather than by disparate bodies. And so I think that, the management of the airspace, even though there are designated flight, highways, as you say, for drones, or designated areas, as the amount of traffic increases on the drone side, and it's already, hugely outstripping the number of GA that we have, for example, or the number of regular aircraft. More and more, we're going to have to integrate all of that, and as I say, I think it's best to have it managed by one entity, one body. So it'll be us. Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
it's the future is
Yep.
going to be so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Here's another COVID question.
Yeah.
Aside from the obvious loss of revenue, how else has NAV Canada been affected by COVID-19?
Well, I mean, the big
I know
impact
the
on us.
employees was a big one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big, the big impact on us has been the revenue. Obviously, with traffic falling off, we make our money based on traffic, so our revenues have fallen off. But our key, concern in terms of responding to COVID has been the health and safety of our employees and the continuity of safe operations. So, and I talk about those two things, but they're really all about the same thing. It's making sure that we have all of our employees in the best shape they can be in. We do everything we can to ensure their safety and their health so that we can continue to operate. So we've had some enormous changes in the way we operate since the beginning of this. We have, completely revamped how we schedule staff and how we schedule people to come into work, away from the way we used to do it to a crew system by and large. The changes we've made in the workplace, not only, a head office situation where we have lots of people working from home, but in our operational facilities where we've, separated off and segregated working stations and, set up backup stations that are sanitized in case there's a problem. So yeah, the revenue loss is a huge impact, but it's just, there's nothing we can do about it. What we can do and what we've really been focused on is everything we can to make sure that, people are healthy and safe. And I think we've done, knock on wood, a great job. We've had very, very few people who have come down with a COVID infection. We haven't lost any hours of operation, unlike a number of facilities around the world where they've had to go to ATC 0 because they've had too many infections and they can't keep the facility open. We've had none of those kinds of issues. So as I say, knock on wood, to date, we've been pretty successful. So now the challenge is really, okay, let's look at how we're going to reopen and go back to some semblance of normality as the ability to control the spread of the infection is better, and traffic starts to come up. So we need to start reopening a fair bit more of our ability to handle the traffic. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to reopen in the same way, ensuring safe workplace, healthy workplace, health of all the employees?
So as a leader of a company during a time like this, like as a human, is it stressful when you have to make decisions, like even going forward, like reopening, you're going to have to make decisions on what do schedules look like, what does it look like, and knowing that the employees might be happy and might not be happy.
Yeah.
Like as a human, is that, like, I would think in your position that would be very stressful. Do you find it stressful, or is it just?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, let there be no mistake. The last few months have been some of the most stressful, that I've had at any time in my working career, and that includes, going to court and doing trials and those sorts of things that are stressful as well. Yeah, I mean, we have had just an enormous loss of revenue, so we have no cash. So working through solutions to that. But also at the same time, making a number of decisions on a daily basis. And we've been meeting, on a daily basis, 7 days a week for a few months now, to deal with that kind of response. And, we all have different level of risk tolerance. We all have accepted or denied what's happening at a different pace or a different rate. Some people never thought it was a problem. Some still don't think it's a problem. Others are just, terrified and horrified by what's going on and what some of their neighbors are doing, and everywhere in between. And so as we navigate through that, and we navigate through that in literally every jurisdiction in Canada, with federal laws, provincial laws, municipal laws, public health laws that not only affect our employees directly, but affect their families and their children, and their spouses, and taking all of that into account and accommodating as best we can all of that. It's been stressful because you got to make sure that people are safe.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you're the CEO, that's easy. Everyone else gets to do the work. Like, just managing all that, I just can't imagine
Well,
how
we've got some
stressful that
great
must be.
people. We got great people in this organization, and a number of great people who have been really actively involved in navigating through this and giving some really good advice. So they make the job a lot easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question for you.
Yeah.
With Canadian airports processes changing daily, How do you keep up with the most current information being delivered by the Canadian airports?
So so go back to 2001, 2000 to 2003 when we went through 9/11, and then the airline bankruptcies and SARS and all of that. One of the lessons we learned was the need to have a really mature and fulsome emergency management program. And so we put it into place back then in the years following those events. And one of the things we've always been focused on because of 2003 and SARS was what happens when there's a pandemic and what the impact that it has. So we have a structure where we have a national emergency management team and we have regional emergency management teams. So we can take a national view, we also take regional views, and they're very plugged into what's going on, not only in NAV Canada, not only in public health, but also with our partners like airports. We also have our stakeholder relations group, headed up by Heather McGonigal, who's constantly in touch with the various airports across the country. What are they doing? What do we need to know? How are we working with them? From my perspective, I have great relationships with airport CEOs across the country, and I talk to them on a regular basis. I talk with Joy Carter down in Halifax, who is the CEO of Halifax International, but also the chair of the Canadian Airport Council on a regular basis, so that I know what the airports across the country are doing as well. So a lot of it is communicating, at all levels, regionally, nationally, on a stakeholder basis at the CEO level, really understanding, what challenges they have and how we can continue to ensure that operations are going to continue and they're going to be safe.
Oh, okay. Another question we brought in here is, we hear about all the layoffs in the airlines. It's so sad. It's so sad hearing about them all. Has NAV Canada had to lay off any air traffic controllers?
No, we have not. We have suffered a significant reduction in revenue. And so we've had to manage our cash. So what we have done is offer early retirement incentives to a number of groups. And when I say groups, it's mainly based upon age and length of service. So people who have been with us a long time and might ordinarily be thinking about retirement, we've encouraged them through an incentive program to maybe advance some of their thinking. And so we've incented them to retire and leave the organization. And so some of those have been controllers, but it's been in all functional groups across the company. But no, we have not laid off. We can't guarantee we won't be. We need to, as I said, watch the situation in the U.S. and, continue to monitor and see where we are. But at this point, we're doing everything we can to avoid layoffs, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to avoid layoffs as long as we can. As I mentioned a little earlier, going back 5-6 years ago, we were short in terms of the number of controllers we had in the organization. And it takes a long time to train a controller and get a controller qualified. It can take up to 2 years for an IFR controller to be checked out. So you want to think long and hard about laying off controllers when you've gone through that, and that's the lead time to get them requalified. And we have to, keep in mind that this too shall pass, and at some point that traffic will be back up there at those levels, and we're going to need those people.
Yeah, do you see that, there's going to be a shortage again with like the people who are retiring, and then there was a little bit of a delay in the training as people had to stay home for a little bit, and like you say, it takes so long.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to depend on how quickly the traffic levels come back. I think it's going to be a while. It's going to be another year on our estimates, at least, before it's even back to about 80% of where it was. So, we've got some time, but we don't want to miss out on that opportunity. If that's, as you say, training's been delayed, number of really, really great people have retired, hard to replace them. And so we've got to take advantage of this time that we have to make sure that we have the right staffing levels.
So moving it sort of in a different subject, Gina's asking, I'm wondering what is being done in regards to the inclusion of different groups with NAV Canada.
So at NAV Canada, we have a profile of leadership. and what we expect of our leaders and what we want of our leaders. And in a number of areas, there are things that we want, but there are certain things that are non-negotiable for us. And one of the values, if you want to be in management, if you want to be a leader at NAV Canada, is that you have a respect for diversity, and you are interested, and you are committed to building an inclusive workplace. That is simply something that if you're not interested in that, then you should think about working somewhere else. Because if you're going to be a leader at NAV Canada, you have to be devoted to that. We think it's the right thing to do. We think we're a better company for being a diverse company and having a diverse workforce, and for having an inclusive workforce. And a lot of what we've been doing over the past 5 years has really been centered around diversity and inclusion. We have programs around it. We have people devoted to working on it full time. But beyond that, it is something that informs, everything that we do and think about as we make hiring decisions. Some of the folks on the webinar may know that we've just restructured, or we've announced a restructuring of the executive group effective September 1. And in doing that, we took pains to make sure that, coming out of this with the restructured executive group, there is going to be diversity in that group, and there is going to be gender equality, for example, on that group. So normal operations, normal business in extraordinary times like we're facing now, you don't abandon your values, you don't put them on the back burner, you continue to move forward based on those values.
I love that you don't apologize for that.
No.
You're just really clear. That's what it is at NAV Canada. And yep. I love that so much. Okay, time for a couple more questions here. Good afternoon. The future of air navigation is about optimization of airspace capacity. In this context, does NAV Canada support ICAO initiative towards development of system-wide information management, and what efforts NAV Canada implements to protect of air navigation operations and develop the global cybersecurity intelligence within Canadian airspace?
Those are great questions. I should have our engineers and our techs on to answer this, but yeah, absolutely. So system-wide information management, SWIM, is a significant part of what our aeronautical information management people are focused on. Even though we are reducing our spend on a number of projects because of the times we're in and the shortage of revenues, what's today, Thursday? Tuesday, we had a meeting where we approved some expenditures on a capital program around enhancing SWIM. So we absolutely support it and are actively engaged in it. Cyber is equally a very, very important issue for us. We have recently announced that we're merging our business systems group with our engineering group. We have had 2 cyber groups, and we're going to be having 1 cyber group. We think that we can better address cyber issues that way. As a national infrastructure provider, we're a target for a lot of the bad people in the world who want to disrupt or interfere with what's happening. And so we need to take the measures, and we do take the measures, and we spend a lot of time focused on cyber, and we spend a lot of money on cyber and cyber prevention. Yeah. Good question.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, one more question from the attendees, and then I have a couple to finish up. I have a couple here. So from Caleb, how are you able to develop consistency among air traffic control? I was flying yesterday in a Cessna at a Class C airport. Traffic was heavy. Air traffic control sounded flustered and busy. I've listened to other US cities, ATCs from time to time. There's some variety with air traffic control, which I think is to be expected for many reasons. Does privatization try to create consistency, and do they think consistency is important, or is flexibility equally important because of the variety of people and cultures in Canada?
That's a great question.
He's from the States.
Yeah, and this is something that we are really focused on. I would differentiate consistency with what I would call commonality. So when it comes to consistency, any air navigation service provider, whether it's the FAA, us, NATS in the UK, anywhere, is all about standards. And you set certain standards, you have common phraseology. You do want that consistency because you don't want to fly, through, we have 110 facilities. You don't want to have 110 different kinds of, operation. You want to, and you expect as a pilot to have consistency everywhere. So we absolutely try and build that into all of our training and into our standards and into how we operate at any given time. What I refer to as commonality is, despite all that consistency, we still do run each operation a little bit differently. That's important because every little bit of airspace can be a little bit different. Every locale can be a little bit different. But more and more, we do want to have a common approach across the country. So we have 100. If we have 110 towers, as I said, we've got a traffic management system in each of those towers. Each of them is a little bit different. Well, does it really make sense to have 110 different adaptations of a system? So we're trying to bring some commonality to those systems, some commonality to how we manage, for example, high-level airspace, right across the country. So yes, consistency, absolutely fundamental, to what we do and what we try to ingrain in everybody in the organization. A little bit of differences, but as much as possible, we want to have that commonality across our operation.
Okay. I lied. I'm going to take one more question because I want you to answer Trevor's question here. The CAA in Trinidad and Tobago generates their main revenues from airlines using their airspace. With the shutdown of so many borders, are there any suggestions to help them survive in these times?
If there are, I hope they could give them to me, and we could maybe find some other revenues. I think around the world, a lot of airports and air navigation service providers are being hit hard by the drop in traffic because we earn our revenues from those who fly. And if people aren't flying, if the airlines aren't flying, then we don't have the revenues. In many jurisdictions, the governments have stepped up to backstop the airports and the air navigation service providers. Not sure what the situation is in Trinidad and Tobago with the CAA. Here in Canada, the government has not done that as of yet. We're still talking to them, but as of yet, they haven't done that as they have, for example, in the US. But that's, if people aren't flying, that's really about the only source of revenue you're going to have is looking to the government.
Okay. So just a last question on leadership.
Yeah.
People who are looking to grow in their companies, whatever it is, whether it's inside NAV Canada or inside other companies, what can they do now? They're in their jobs and they're looking at, a step ahead, 2 steps ahead. Do you have any advice on what they can do now?
One of the best pieces of advice or observations, I guess, I ever heard was from Lynn Moreau, who's our general manager of our Montreal ACC. And we were having a discussion about people who want to move up and move up and move up. And she commented, and I absolutely agree, that one of the best things you can do is don't worry so much about moving up or moving somewhere else. Look to all the various opportunities that exist in the normal course, the committees, the projects that are there and need people to work on them or need help. You're going to learn so much in getting involved outside of your normal day-to-day job, in getting involved in those projects and taking advantage of those opportunities. You're going to learn so much about how to deal with people. You're going to learn so much about how to manage your way through something. And that kind of thing is so easily accessible and so readily available and provides such great opportunities for you. The chance to do something a little bit different in that kind of perspective. You're a great example of that. I mean, look what you did. You took advantage of some opportunities that were there to do something different. And I suspect that you would see that as, having been really beneficial to your growth as a leader in the organization. And it's those opportunities that are there and they are there. Take advantage of them.
Yeah, you never know when you take a step to do something different or new. You just don't know where that's going to take you. I certainly didn't know what it
Yep.
was going to do to my life. So, um,
Yeah.
what is what's your biggest accomplishment or legacy that you want to leave NAV Canada with when it's time to go?
Well, when I started in this job in 2016, it was about um, providing value to all stakeholders, and that includes the employees, and really making this one of the best places in Canada to work. I think we've done a great job. We've been recognized as a top employer in Canada, for the last 4 years in a row. That's, to me, an accomplishment of what we set out to do beginning in 2016. We're in some difficult times right now, and so a lot of the things that we built in order to support that approach are going to suffer certainly in the short term. So finding our way through this and still making this a great company and a great place to work is really what I want to focus on, and what I want to leave the company with when I do go.
Wow. Well, thank you. And I know I can tell you that all the employees I know love working at NAV Canada. So we're all very lucky indeed.
Good.
So I can't thank you enough for being
Thank you,
here
Kendra.
and
It's
just,
been great.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing everything. And everyone who's watching, I hope you really enjoyed this and learned a little something from Neil Wilson. And we will talk to you next time when I believe we have Kathy Fox, the chair of the Transport Safety Board, up next. We'll get a chance to talk to her. And have a great week. And Neil, we'll talk again sometime soon.
We will. Thanks,
Okay.
Kendra. Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Okay. Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye. Bye-bye.